And we're live. Hello, everybody. It's Zane Miller. Sorry, I got to turn off my speakers. And we are coming off of my headset and not my nice snowball mic. So I don't need to grab that. So hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Hump Day Hangout. My name is Zane Miller, and I'm going to show you something real super quick. My screen here. Bam. So this is me. This is Zane Miller. You can find me on Google+. Come and circle me. Send me a message. Say hi. I run this community with my brother Van. Go ahead and wave and say hi.
Hey, everybody.
So he and I run this wonderful, awesome community called G-Tron Marketing. If you're interested in hearing about Google AdWords for video, Hangouts, Google+, YouTube, all those kinds of things and how they all work together, we urge you to come and join our community. So with that little pitch out of the way, the reason why we do this is because Van and I run a successful video marketing company together, and we realize that there's just not enough communities out there that talk about the same tools that we use every single day. We also wanted to create this Hump Day Hangout because as we have these meetings and stuff and chat with each other and communicate with our community, we come up with our own ideas, and we want to broadcast that out to the world. So that's basically the Hump Day Hangout. We don't take longer than 15 minutes. That's why I'm talking kind of fast. Sometimes we go the full 15, sometimes we don't, but now that you're aware, we've got the context. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about exformation and visual backgrounds and things like that, especially since we were talking about Hangouts and live video and things like that. So what is exformation? That's actually the exact question that Van asked me before we went live. And this is a term coined by Colin Terrio. It's also a legit term, exformation. But it's basically the information that you bring with you that doesn't necessarily need to be spoken or specifically addressed. It kind of lends to that concept of a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? You don't have to literally say everything that happens in a picture. People can just see it and deduce for themselves. Their brain fills in the gaps. Now, that's the thing with exformation, though, is that if you understand that people are already predisposed to certain types of information or images or phrases, when you know that those things trigger in people's brains, you can use that to your advantage, especially in marketing. So, Van, looks like you wanted to say something.
I was just saying, what you're getting at is also the reason why you got to figure out who your target audience is, who your demographics are, because if you put together a marketing campaign towards a certain group of people, or age group or gender or whatever, then there's certain things you don't really have to say. It's already applied. Your demographic and your audience understands a large part of what you're trying to say, and so they don't have to be explained every little detail.
Exactly. No, very, very, very well said. And the first thing that I think of, I mean, when Colin Terrio brings it up, he's talking about using exformation in copywriting, right? How gurus use positioning of experiences that they've had with their marketplace before, and they apply it to their copy. Now, again, it's one of those things that it doesn't need to be mentioned, but like in the copy. So, if a previous experience, if their audience had a previous experience to that guru, in the next sales presentation or sales letter, they can bring up that information that was touched on before. For example, Van here, he has 5 kids, right? And we joke about it a lot, but when it comes up, it only needs to be brought up in a very limited capacity. He can say, oh, hold on a second, or if he's on mute, right? You kind of know, oh, wait, he's dealing with kids, and you know that he's dealing with kids, and that's why he's on mute, because you've had previous experiences with him that you know that he has those 5 kids. There's more examples of that. Van, do you have any other examples similar to that?
Not off the top of my head, honestly.
Right.
No, I mean, basically, the first thing that always comes to my mind when you talk about stuff like this is, your first impression of people. And then thereafter, that first impression is sometimes hard to shake because they have this predisposed information in their head from your existing meeting with them already. If you have branding or you have, certain pieces of information that help you, like you say, fill in the gaps. And it's kind of like, people always complain about stereotypes. Stereotypes exist because there's certain pieces of information that persist, whether they're good or
Mm.
bad stereotypes, they both exist. But, it's just one of those things that people always assume. So uh, information can work in your favor or can work against you. Sometimes your job as a marketer is to train people in the other direction, is to educate them about why their information or their predisposed ideas are
Mm.
incorrect. And so there's kind of different ways that you handle that kind of information depends on how you're going to market to your group of people.
Yeah. No, very, very, very good point. Let me ask, how are we doing on time? Because I don't want to go off on a rant
You
like I
know
tend
what?
to do.
I say we're doing awesome on time because I'm not keeping track of it.
Awesome. All right, cool. So with that, like with what Van said, I always think about like television commercials, right? Let's bring this back into the marketing lesson that we're discussing today, right? So one of the things that I like the most, the example that I think of is like Pepsi, right? Now, obviously, all the commercials are about people, drinking Pepsi and enjoying Pepsi and how great it is. And to like looking at it at the surface level, you think, okay, well, the commercial's about how refreshing Pepsi is and how delicious it is, and all the kind of feature points, right? And a lot of times you hear in marketing that don't sell on features, sell on benefits, right? So you think that these are all these features, it tastes good and it's low calorie or this or that, but what you're actually seeing and what they're actually trying to say is the explanation of people who drink Pepsi are young and vigorous and it just keeps going, right? That's the explanation that they want you to bring to the table, when not when you watch the commercial, but when you walk up to the case at your store and you open the door and you reach for a Pepsi. They want that explanation of, oh yeah, it's not refreshing and delicious. It's that I'm buying this because I am also young and hip and in the know, and that's why I'm drinking Pepsi over Coke. That's their major push, right? It's the younger generation that drinks Pepsi, and it's the old fogies that drink Coke, or at least that's the frame that they like to put it in, right? So with that said, Van, have you seen any commercials in a similar fashion, right? Where it's more of here's the explanation that the commercial wants you to bring to the buying table, if you will.
I think the latest one that I saw was the Esurance commercial. I don't know if you've seen this one where,
Hmm.
has a bunch of old ladies sitting around and, one of them's, was like, hey, I went on vacation and I posted all these pictures on my wall. And she literally has pictures on her wall. And her friend's like, I don't think you know how this is supposed to work. And she's like, no, this is really easy. And, basically what they eventually get around to is that, these old people, they don't quite get it, and they're the ones that use the other product. And
Hmm.
if you're smart and tech savvy and understand how the world really works, then you actually use this product. And so they're I think it was bashing on Geico, basically saying,
Right, right.
Geico says you can do it in 15. We're saying you can do it in 7.
Yeah.
And so once again, they're using an older generation that might not be as connected to technology to not quite get it. So when
Right.
you want to be that person that gets it, so therefore I'm going to use the other kind. So
Yeah, I know. I definitely agree, and I've seen that, and you can also see there's a little bit of explanation happening right now. Like, what is the deal with this, right? Well, this is kind of a natural thing that happens with my hair. What I wish I could have is like this big giant beard, right? I would much rather have that, but instead I've got this whole cockatiel look. But I'm a personality marker. I'm giving it a shot. And worst case scenario, we can all poke fun at Zane and be like, "Hey, remember when he tried to do the afro thing?" Yeah. Or it could be something that takes off. Again, it's one of those things that at a later date, this is information that you will be bringing to a conversation later, whether it's face to face or through a hangout, or you're watching a later YouTube video. So with that said, I want to encourage you guys to leave some comments in here, because these hangouts and these videos actually turn into interactive conversations with us. It's kind of like fills into a bigger picture of this big scheme that we've got going on. So I do have one more point that I would like to touch on before we go. So Van, is there anything that you want to lead with before I jump into my little rant?
no, go ahead and start ranting.
All right, perfect, perfect. So, actually, this is something that you also have some input on as well. But for those of you who've seen previous episodes or been a part of your previous hangouts before, you can see that the actual this my layout right now looks different than it did a couple of weeks ago. Now, I'll give you a moment to go back and check. Okay, just kidding. So, with that said, we actually we moved my camera back a little bit further, and then we moved my desks, my monitors in here as well. For those of you who are wondering, this is not a wall. This is actually just a blanket, a $10 blanket that I got at Walmart. My setup is actually very hodgepodge because I also want to show people that hey, it's not that expensive to put together, and really what you're looking at is again taking considerations of X formation elements. What I have right now is very plain, right? There's not a whole lot of personality that I've added to this just yet, aside from the cockatiel hair. So with that said, we're actually experimenting with different ways of how we can make this more interesting, bring X formation to the table for people in the future. So I want to encourage you to think about those things, about how you would do it. Use me as an example, but Van, what are some of the things that we were talking about what I should be adding to this to make it better and add elements of X formation in there?
Geez, where do I start?
Right?
Um, I mean, in my background, I have some things that are kind of indicative of my personality. I like comic books. Zane gave me this present of the Iron Man um, thing behind me, and I have my calendar, and I have a couple other stuff. You don't, depending on your camera placement, depends on how much you can actually put in your background. But we put this question out to the community a couple weeks ago, and got some pretty good feedback on it.
Yeah.
One of them being that sometimes people don't want to be distracted by your background. Keeping something kind of neutral but interesting. Branding would help. I think having a sign or just some kind of image in the background. Then I also think plant just
Something alive.
something alive or something just of interest. But as it came up a couple of times in the comments, was you don't want anything to be too overwhelming as far as distracting from the person actually doing the message. So yeah, so as far as Zane goes, I would definitely add some knickknacks or some things that makes it a little more interesting. Um, I'm going to throw this example out because it's an example. It's not a show that I watch regularly, but I've seen a couple episodes of The Blaze with Glenn Beck,
Hmm.
and if you look at their set, man, it is like crazy stuff everywhere. It's like walking into Applebee's or Red Robin. It's just like
Right.
every square inch
Lots
is
of
filled up
flair.
with lots of flair. But it works for their stage and for what they're doing, and their background elements that aren't overly lit. They're actually kind of subtle. Obviously the spotlight's on the people making comments or the talk
Mhm.
show host. But if you look at any other talk shows, Ellen or Jimmy Fallon, those type of things, they still have things in their background that are visually interesting. Honestly, that's where I would actually like to try and push. Zane's background is more of of a
The
talk
talk
show.
show, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was really liking that idea. Actually have like a nice DSLR camera. Right now I'm using, for those of you who are wondering, the tech crowd, the camera that I use is a Logitech C920. I believe Van's actually using the same one. If you see him, he's got a little bit of better lighting than I do, so he lights up more. I do have some natural light in here, but before going into that, too far down that particular rabbit hole, just know that there are considerations that you can have for higher end, more professional cameras if you want, but you can use something as simple as like what we're using, which are webcams that are under $100. You actually bought yours most recently, Van. How much was your Logitech C920?
Um, I am not 100% sure.
Mhm.
I think it was between 70 and 90, somewhere in there.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
So
it's definitely under $100 for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, for what it is, it's a great little camera, and
Yeah.
you can mount it, you can put it on a tripod. It's very versatile, and it has a pretty long cord too, so that makes it nice that if you need to get your camera further back to kind of give more area to your camera, you can do that
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think your camera placement is also important as well to take into consideration. If you want to have more of a full body shot, then you need to take it back. If you want just a headshot, then zoom in on it. So it just really depends on what kind of feel you want to set up for your environment. And as Zane was pointing out with Ekformation, what you put into your scene is going to be information that you put out to your audience there. So,
Mhm.
it just depends on the kind of message you want to send out there.
Yeah, and actually and I'll put the link in the description below. But actually, a show that I help with, again, I mentioned Colin Terrio a couple of times. His show, the Cult of Copy show, is a very copy-driven show, but he actually sits down, right? He has a chair, and then he intentionally positions the camera in such a way where it actually looks like the two of you are sitting down and having a conversation. And interestingly enough, he got that idea from Mr. Rogers, right? He actually like Mr. Rogers. He comes in, takes off his coat, hangs it up. Like he has a very specific intentional process that, since his target market, the kids who are watching are toddlers. So he actually sets the frame of going from I'm an adult and this is how dad walks through the door, but then he dresses down and then he sits down at an eye level with the camera that would be eye level with a toddler, so they're looking at each other at the same level, and that basically brings the kid, the person watching, further into the show, and trusts the character more and more. Again, it's that Ekformation that you don't really think about, that it's not just the background, but that's actually how he introduces himself and brings him into and sets the tone. So just take some time ahead of time, right, like Colin did, and go, okay, so how do I want to set the tone? I want people to trust me, so maybe we can set the camera in this way, and just be willing to try things out. Van?
Totally. I agree with that 100%. We are actually at the end of our show.
We are. Okay, so thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm just going to plug this one more time. Right, here's our community. Search for us on Google+, or you can just click the link in the description below. Again, I am Zane Miller. You can circle me on Google+. Join our community, and again, thank you, Van, for being here and being a part of this awesome event. So,
Sure.
With that
By
said,
the way, I just want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
I looked up G-Tron on Google the other day, and apparently Audi has some kind of G-Tron thing.
Yeah, talk about Ekformation.
But we are like right up there with Audi on far as if
Oh, really?
G-Tron. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Like, I guess we're starting to get some ranking because eventually we're going to push Audi out of this little keyword here, G-Tron.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can find us. Yeah, you can find us on Google now, right?
Yeah, just type in G-Tron.
Alrighty, cool. So thanks again, and we'll see you later. Bye.
That.